there's a sculptor and his wife who have overhauled a dilapidated property and garage to make it their own paradise. Nancy's going to write about that, and she's going to tell us about it right now. Hey there, Nancy.
Hey, Wendy.
Who are these folks, and describe the property they've overhauled, the before that it was?
So before, it was this sort of dilapidated bungalow in Venice. And Venice is sort of this eclectic neighborhood with narrow streets, kind of crazy. So what they did was they redid the house and they built a studio. And what's interesting about these people is that the husband is a big sculptor. He makes big public sculptures, and the wife is an architect. So they think differently, and they both brought different aspects to the project.
We're looking at some of the photos of the after now, Nancy, and it's obviously been quite renovated, modern, sleek, open. What were some of his goals as a sculptor in terms of what he wanted for this home? What was he trying to achieve?
So the way he approaches his work, and this is, for this house and also for his sculptures, is he goes to a space and he feels how the space feels and thinks about what would fit into it. So he wanted to connect the house to the studio and incorporate sculpture into the house.
Now, his wife was a residential architect. He's a sculptor. Both of them obviously have very distinct ideas on design. When you spoke with them, how do they work that out? I mean, they can't have exactly the same ideas. How do they make it mesh?
They really separated it. She did all of the drawings of the plans, and she was responsible for sort of raising the ceilings and putting in big windows and kind of making it a nice, warm, domestic space. And he was responsible for kind of creating the connections between the buildings and filling the space with interesting objects.
Now, this metal studio they've created as well, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's really cool looking. It's huge. It's corrugated metal, and it has 20-foot ceilings. And inside, he can fit these just enormous metal creations that he makes. It has concrete floors and is wide open. And then outside, what he did was he put a fountain that he sculpted that matches exactly the fire pit in front of the house in terms of color and size across the courtyard. So it connects the two.
When because you interview a lot of folks who are artists who are often sort of building their dream homes, do you find they start out with one vision and end up with something else?
I think that, I don't think so in this case. I think what happened here was that, she made the shell and he sort of created the interior, filled it in. But what they came out with was what he really wanted was sort of a refuge from the craziness of Venice. And so you can't even really see it from the street. It's hidden behind a hedge. And you walk in and you just would never know you're in a city. And I think, so in terms of emotionally, that's what he wanted.
And Nancy, how did these 19th century Japanese prints, again, how did they come into play in this home?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So I guess a lot of interior designers, the way they work is they get a color scheme. And so they decided to choose these 19th century prints that he had bought in Japan as sort of the color scheme. And there are these intricate drawings, but they took out the colors, which are pretty vibrant. And so they have a bright orange wall, they have bright green kitchen cabinets. The chairs in the kitchen are all different colors. There's a bright yellow wall on the property, and it just really brightens everything up. And you would never think it's a 19th century Japanese print, but when you look at the prints and you look at the colors, it just all seems to go together.
Well, the pictures look beautiful, but we'll look and read more about how they got to this effect and how they achieved this home in tomorrow's Friday Journal by you, Nancy Keats. You're writing that story. Thanks so much.